Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. On a frigid day, here I am, bundled up and snuggled up in my office. I'm excited to be with you again for another episode here of my LinkedIn Live based on my Charismatic Presence 5 Principles for Magnetic Presentations book, my newest book. And I am Eleni Kalakos, also known as the Speaker Whisperer. I help people just like you be more relaxed, real, and relatable when you speak in public, in whatever setting that might be, whether it's a job interview, a big, huge pitch, or getting up in front of your entire company and kicking the year off with a keynote. And today we're going to talk about kicking things off. And, I am basically going through this book bit by bit and talking about little sections of it. And I am still in chapter, I want to say, I don't even know what chapter it is. It's presence principle number 3. I have 5 presence principles. Know thyself, be thyself, prepare thyself, commit thyself, and turn thyself on so you can turn other people on. And I have been talking about preparation for a while, mostly because I could talk about preparation all day long and still have more to talk about. But today I want to focus on the moment right before you actually open your mouth and begin to talk when you're in front of a group. Now, I have to tell you that I myself have been guilty of quickly sliding into the first moment of a talk. Nerves, adrenaline can push you really hard towards leaping out onto the platform, so to speak, and just yakking. And often we say the same silly thing. Hi, everybody. How's it going? How is everybody today? Hello, Cleveland. Or, hi, I'm Eleni Kalakos. And I'm going to give a presentation on presenting, which you probably can tell because on the slide in back of me it says Eleni's presentation on presenting. We blow what I call the magic moment. It's that moment of anticipation, which I've talked about before in these little LinkedIn episodes. It's that moment of anticipation where people are waiting for you to speak. And they've already made some basic assumptions about you based on what you look like, how you're holding yourself. Just, they're already making decisions about you. And then you open your mouth, right? That is a fraught moment, that magic moment. There's stuff going on with your audience. As I said, they're in evaluation mode and waiting to see if they're going to like you. They're going to turn off immediately when you start talking. And then there you are, very often being battered and abused by your little inner judgers, Mo and Shmo. That's what I call them, Mo and Shmo. Mo and Shmo are your representatives of fear, if you will. They are there to basically actually protect you, but as I always have been saying and like to say, they do it in a sort of ass backwards kind of way. They basically make you second guess yourself. And so when you are ready to rock, right in that moment, let's say you've just stepped out in front of the microphone and the audience is waiting to hear you, your mind is potentially spinning like a top. It is rolling around limiting beliefs. And it is also dealing with that overabundance of adrenaline that really just infuses you right before you step into something important. Now, adrenaline in and of itself is not a bad thing at all. Neither is anxiety. You want to have an optimal level of anxiety when you speak. A little goose of anxiety is a good thing. It is not a bad thing. I want to just say this to you. But what happens is that even a little bit of anxiety combined with just your body's natural adrenaline can kick you into overdrive before you even start. Your heart can be racing, you're anticipating starting, and what happens is you often leap in too quickly. Now, I want you to think back to the greatest teachers that you ever had. I mean, I think back to, I have so many. I'm lucky to be able to say that I have a lot of really great teachers I can look back on, but Mr. Sobel, my math teacher, in both, I believe it was the 6th grade and the 9th grade at the American International School in Israel. He typically started in silence. See, your great teachers knew that if they could start in silence and just be present with you, the room would start to hush. Attention would be gathered. Energy would be gathered. Because that moment before you start, that magic moment is a tender one. It can go in any direction. If you start off the same old way, as I've discussed before, without perhaps an interesting hook or some way to grab them, if they've heard it all before, they're going to retract versus lean in toward you. But today we're not talking so much about what you need to say and do as a hook leading into the presentation. Today we're going to talk about what you need to do in those quiet moments. Not just when you're waiting on deck, which we've talked about a bit. Some of the things that you can do to help yourself stay centered, relaxed, breathing, and focused. We're not just talking about that. We're talking about literally standing in silence in front of your audience for a moment, within that magic moment. Collecting yourself, further stilling yourself, and connecting with the audience. Instead of launching into what you're there to say instantly without bothering to ground yourself and make that connection with your audience. So, what do I mean by that? Well, simply put, first and foremost, you've got to get your own self in the moment, right? I talk about this all the time. Presence equals being present. Now, if you've been waiting in the wings, you've been hopefully doing some of the R ritual, routine, and repetition work that I've talked to you about. Finding some ways to help ground yourself. Perhaps you've done some breathing work to help yourself manage the adrenaline, maybe inhaling on 5, holding for 7, and exhaling on 8, and repeating that 10 times until you are calm and centered. Perhaps you've tensed and released parts of your body, as I've discussed before. Tensing your shoulders and relaxing them with a sounded sigh. Perhaps you've muttered a mantra like, I've got this, or I am here, or I am relaxed and ready. These are the kinds of things that you can do while you're waiting in the wings, right? In the shadow of the wings, away from the eyeballs of your audience. But right now, I'm talking about what you can do when you are literally in front of them. And every impulse in you is to just leap onto the stage, if you will, and start talking. Here's what I hope you do. Instead, I hope you step with purpose onto that stage. By that, I mean ban wishy-washy, right? Nothing wishy-washy. No lackadaisical, ambling kind of sort of. You are walking with purpose to the center of that stage. You are then planting your feet and feeling Mother Earth supporting your feet. You are taking an inhalation and an exhalation, not sounded, but internal. You're bringing your breath into your belly. And you are hopefully then remembering what you are there to do, your intention. I've talked about intention before and how important that is, determining what you're there to do specifically to be of use and value to that audience. What I've just described is what I've talked about before, my FBI practice, foot, breath, intention. Yes, you can practice that while eyes are not on you, while you're backstage, whatever that means. Or if you don't have a little area where you can do that, go into the restroom, do it there. But you can also practice it right when you get out in front of an audience. Take just a little tiny moment. F is for floor, footing, foundation. Feel the floor beneath your feet. B is for breath. Bring your breath into your belly. Take a nice inhalation. And then exhale. And then I is for two things at this point. I is for a reminder, as I said, of, well, just what is my intention in this moment? A reminder of the task at hand, what you're there to do to be of support to the audience. Think about it. Take the time to do this while they're staring at you. Yes. I is also for eyeball to eyeball, heart to heart. It's all about remembering that connection with your audience comes first with silence, then with sound, right? That means finding people with your eyes, looking at them, smiling at them, having that moment of connection first before you open your mouth. And while that is occurring, asking yourself, what might you say in your brain to yourself in that moment to help fill the moment so that it's a pregnant pause while they watch? I always like to have something I'm thinking of when I'm looking at my audience, and it can be something like this. Thinking, not speaking, I've worked really hard putting this presentation together for you. I am really excited to deliver it to you today, and I'm going to do the best I can to deliver it to you so that it matters. Now, I don't know how long that took. 3.5 seconds, 4 seconds? I'm thinking something like that in my head. It allows the time to go by with a richness to it and a depth to it. As you smile, catch people's eyes, look at them, and think. And then open your mouth and speak. Now, I want to be perfectly clear about the first words that come out of your mouth, especially in a high-stakes scenario. Please let them not be some casual little whatever. I really believe that there's a difference between a kind of, wishy-washy start and a start that feels like one. And by that, I mean, I want you to have really thought out what you're going to say when you first open your mouth. I know for myself, I'm very calculated about what I say first thing. And typically, I will start with a story. I've mentioned this before during these little LinkedIn, fairly one-sided conversations, but you get my drift. I will literally step into the story. It was a hot summer night. And I was standing outside in my underwear, facing my front door. realizing that my key was inside, along with my ice cold lemonade. And I was stuck outside in the abject heat, in full view of my neighbors who were having a barbecue. I just made that up. That is not a real story. But the point is, often I will literally just step into a story. What I know is no matter what you say, when you open your mouth, that's the first time they're going to hear you. Say it with conviction. Say it with volume. But don't say it until you've actually looked into somebody's eyeballs, connected with them. Find a nice, warm person. There's always someone in the audience who's looking at you and they're smiling. They're giving you that nice vibe. Good. Start with them. Talk to them. Don't just talk to the audience as a rule, as a whole, just over their heads. Talk to that one person. Start with them. And then move and talk to another person. And then talk to another person. But really talk with your audience. I suggest to you that is infinitely more useful to you as a speaker, more helpful to you, to your audience, because when you talk to one person, it makes them feel like you're talking to everybody in there individually. Honestly. Now, I want to talk for 2 minutes about doing this on something like this, right? Virtually. Same thing. Take a moment to gather yourself. Take a breath. Connect with that camera, right? Connect with the camera. Smile. Imagine that your bestie is on the other side of that camera and you're talking to them. And then begin. Don't just quickly sit down, open your mouth, and start to talk. How you handle the first 1 to 3 minutes of your presentation or your interview will set the tone for the rest of it. Think about that. Now, I know that it is awkward sometimes to be quiet in front of people, and I'm asking you to connect first and speak second, which means I'm asking you to be silent with eyes on you. And I know that's challenging, but I want to assure you, you can do it. My teacher, Mr. Sobel, did. I mean, honestly, I have seen some amazing moments with a willingness to pause. I've talked about this before. Pause before you start your talk. Allow yourself to gather your energy, gather the room's energy. And this is especially true for those of you, and you know who you are, who are fast talkers. You have to be able to be in charge of the adrenaline and not have it be in charge of you. And those of you that already speak really fast, you get broadsided by adrenaline. Holy patootie. You're going to just go like a mile a minute and you're going to lose your audience almost from the get-go. So I say to you especially, please start in silence and then begin. Now, as I was getting ready for this today and thinking about what I wanted to talk about, I was reminded of a group of Methodist ministers that I spoke to once. I did a training for them, a weekend training together to work on their presentation skills. Now, of course, right, any member of the clergy, they have to get up pretty often, right, and speak to a group. And I have to say, I have worked with, I've worked with Catholic priests, Baptist ministers, non-denominational ministers, and this particular group, a feisty group of Methodists. And I was really interested in finding out what they did right before they got up there to speak. And they typically, with an awareness of that need for pause and silence, within this that moment, that magic moment, as they gathered people and energy and their own energy, right? They gathered it up before they launched into either their sermon or just the service at hand. They all took a moment, and they, because they are people of faith, would silently in front of the congregation be thinking something like, I ask for your support in saying the right thing, to be of greatest value and greatest support to the members of my congregation. Amen. They thought that. They had a moment, they connected with a higher being, right? They connected with themselves in that moment. They allowed themselves to be in silence and thought something that gave them a few seconds of quiet that was a deep quiet for them. And then they would begin feeling centered and ready. And that is how you want to be. That is how you want to feel. I truly want you to start in silence. Silence is one of the greatest gifts you can give your audience. Your willingness to be silent, to gather yourself, your willingness to be silent at various points within the presentation or pitch so your audience can think and feel and connect with what you've said. Silence, wow, otherwise known as a pause, has deep power. So think about that. Now today, we talked about kicking it off, and we have been talking about preparing yourself. But I want next time we meet, 2 weeks from now, which is, I gotta look. Yep, February 18th, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I want to talk then a little bit about closing, how you bring something to a close, right? But also as a you're preparing, but you're also debriefing. And I want to give you a tool, a simple tool to help you debrief and learn from what you've just been through, rather than going down the rabbit hole and beating yourself into a pulp after your presentation, because this is what typically so many of us do, right? So remember, your audience is taking their cue from you. That magic moment is yours to make or break. Make the moment magical. Make the moment matter by centering yourself, right? Practice FBI, foot, breath, intention. And I is for, remember, eyeball to eyeball, heart to heart, connecting with your audience before you speak with them. Start in silence. See how it works for you. I think it could make a colossal difference for you. And actually, that place of silence and stillness, that's the place you want to be returning to. Always throughout that presentation, you have to know what it is, right? Before you can return to it. So help yourself know what it is before you even speak. And I'll tell you something. If you manage that magic moment with a willingness to start in silence and be really present with your audience, letting that beautiful charismatic presence overflow, you will attract your audience in rather than push them away. And that is exactly what you want to have happen. All right, folks, I'll see you again in 2 weeks. Thank you for being with me here today, and have a beautiful rest of your day. And remember, you can always find my book, Charismatic Presence, 5 Principles for Magnetic Presentations, on Amazon. And I am Eleni Kalakos, CSP, also known as the Speaker Whisperer. See you soon.